GTA 5 is one of the best-selling games of all time, and for good reason. The game itself functions and plays very well. The graphics are great, even on previous generations of consoles. The graphics were amazing for the time. The game itself functions great, with physics that are very realistic. Well, maybe.
Davey!
But the main reason I liked this game was for the main story. Granted, this was my first game into the GTA series, so I may have some bias, but I love this game. Everything about the characters, the setting, the NPCs, the way all three characters weave into each other to make this really intricate and fun story is awesome. Both Michael and Trevor are amazing characters with their own lore and arcs. The most people tend to favor them as their favorite. The game seems to focus on their story, mostly explaining the lore behind their failed heist, Michael's work with the FIB, Trevor's resentment for Michael's betrayal, you know, yada yada. But I wanted to talk about the underdog and personally my favorite character in the game, Franklin. Franklin is one of the characters that doesn't get talked about that often, and I wish he did. His story is quite interesting and unique. Franklin is the first character you play as. In the first mission, you find out that he works as a respectable car repossessor and does nothing illegal or ill-mannered whatsoever.
Oh shit!
Vamos! Fucking down! Come on down, everybody! Come on down!
Hey, nigga, I would've just got my ass beat over a fucking gunfight.
Yeah, basically he works for a shady car guy named Simeon as a car repossessor, and does some street hustling on the side. He's got a best friend named Lamar, who also does the same thing he does. You also find out he lives with his aunt, who he does not get along with.
I'm Denise, Franklin's housemate.
And aunt, my mother's old dried up ass
Shut the
sister.
fuck up!
Shut the fuck up!
Throughout the earlier missions, you can see Franklin definitely does not like his current situation. He wants to aspire for more, feeling that he's undervalued in everything that he does. The people around him don't agree with him. Everyone expects him to stay in the same place, and never really believes in him to do anything greater than he already is. When Franklin tells Simeon that he wants to leave the car dealership to take control of his own life and do something greater, Simeon literally tells him why he can't do that.
Tell you what, my boy. You tell me exactly what you want, and I will very carefully explain to you why it cannot be.
What?
His best friend always ropes him into jobs that seem like opportunities, only for them to be complete busts, and having Franklin risk his life just to protect both of them. His aunt constantly berates him every time he comes near her. Everyone in his inner circle even expects him to do the work they assign him, undervalue him, and doesn't give him any respect. To them, Franklin is just a lackey. Somebody who will take orders and blindly follows them, never offering anything of value for him. It's not until meeting Michael where he starts to actually be valued. After almost getting his head blown off by him, Franklin goes off to see him in his house and asks for some potential work. Not only does Michael give him what he wants, he also respects him, and even gives him advice on what not to do. Specifically the mistakes he made through his life. He calls him for favors that actually give Franklin value, and isn't just using him for Michael's benefit, and genuinely seems to treat him with respect, something that nobody else does. Lester is another person who helps Franklin out a ton. He gives you assassination missions, then gives you insights on what to trade when the market gets affected by these assassinations, giving you a lot of money. He even gives Franklin a house in the hills after one of the missions, allowing him to move out of his aunt's house. Lester also helps out Franklin's plan when you choose option C at the end of the game. Throughout the middle and later stages of the game, it tends to leave Franklin as a side character and focus more on Michael and Trevor, which kinda sucks. The most we see from Franklin in these parts is just him helping out with their missions, and occasionally doing some side quests. When Franklin becomes the main focus again, it's at the end of the game, where he has to make a decision to choose to either kill Trevor or Michael. Franklin, in this situation, decides to take his own option, option C. He decides to make his own solution. Working with Lester, Lamar, Michael, and Trevor, they all tie up loose ends and live life after it's said and done. And honestly, I'm really glad they added this ending. It's a great way to not only end the game, but also end Franklin's character arc. If you do end up choosing option A or B, you realize the outcome just doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel like a proper finale to close off all three characters, and also it just doesn't seem like something Franklin would ever do. Franklin is a character who is pretty loyal and doesn't seem to backstab anyone, even his best friend Lamar, who constantly puts him through bullshit. I mean, Franklin even goes to the sawmill to save him from Stretch's gang, but choosing the other two endings doesn't do a good job closing Franklin's arc, because it just makes him what he was trying to avoid. Steve Haynes tells him to kill Trevor, and Dave Weston tells him to kill Michael, basically treating him like a lackey, just like in the beginning of the game. Franklin's whole point was to prove that he could make his own decisions and wanted to be choosing things that he wanted to do, and by picking option C, he does just that. It essentially just gives a middle finger to both Haynes and Weston by killing them both off, killing all the people who caused him trouble, and allowing Franklin's friends to live. The whole time, he's planning out how to execute it and taking something into his entire control, calling up Lester and Lamar to help, and gives them directions on what to do. Even tells Michael and Trevor orders when facing off in the warehouse, instead of him being bossed around, like it usually is. Franklin, who starts the game off by being a miserable dude who hates his situation, is used by and is disrespected by pretty much everyone he knows, and aspiring to things that he knows he's capable of doing, finally takes control of his life, meets people who can put him in higher positions, and ends up living the life he always knew he was meant for. The other characters also have their own journeys. Michael does have his own growth, with the game explaining all of his problems and lore, and Trevor, you know, is Trevor.
Hey there, Trevor!
But to me, Franklin's arc is pretty underrated. And don't get me wrong, I like Michael and Trevor for my own reasons, but something about Franklin's story makes him my favorite character in the game.